So year 8, we are up to exercise 8.8, multiplying and dividing algebraic expressions. Sorry for that bit of shading. That's just what happens when I'm doing it at night sometimes. Hopefully, I'm sure you can see. So moving on from what we did last lesson, which was like terms, today we are going to do multiplying when you've got numbers and pronumerals. So you've got one expression with two terms in it, one expression, two terms, and we need to get rid of the multiplied sign. So we're going to teach you how to do that. Also, we're going to do division in this lesson. All right, so if you've got just one letter and the two numbers here, you multiply the numbers separately to the letters. So first of all, you just do 7 times 3. 7 times 3 is 21. And there's just an H sitting there. So there's no other letter. We can't multiply it by anything. So your answer is just 21H. So this one's very similar. So look at just the numbers. We have 4 times 6. So 4 times 6 is 24. And letters-wise, we just have a D. No other number anywhere else, so we just put the D in. All right, so next one. We have numbers, 2 times 11, which is 22. We have no number here, no pronumeral here. We just have an H and a T, so we write an H and a T. And if you had H, T, C, P, Q, R, and it went on for 257 letters, you would put those 257 letters down. Not that that's ever going to happen. All right, but what's the next one where we have two letters? So first of all, you just do your numbers exactly the same. So we're going to have 13 times 3, which is 39. And now you multiply your letters together. So we're going to multiply M by N, and that is just MN. Don't forget, if I'm going too fast, just pause the tape or rewind, whatever you need to do. All right, so let's do a couple more like that. So we're going to go numbers first. So we're going to go 2 times 3 is 6. And then we've got A, B, C. So that is A times B times C. So going back to stuff you've done before, but putting it into an equation where there's now numbers. But as you can see, you just do it all separately. So that's your final answer. And we know it's the final answer because there's no multiplication sign in there anymore, which is what we want. You don't want to end up with a sign at all in there. Okay, one of the exercises, of course, as the pattern does go, mixes in our negative and positive values. So let's do that separately as well. So you're going to do negative, positive values, then you're going to do the numbers, and then you're going to do the pronumerals. So we're going to go a minus and a minus, and we know that 2 of the same is a plus. You can put your plus there or you can leave it out. It's up to you. 5 times 5 is 25, and there's something different too. We've got a P times P, and by year 8 you need to be remembering that P times P is equal to P squared. So your final answer is 25P squared. Okay, now they get longer, but hopefully they don't get any harder, more difficult. They're still the same concept. So let's have a look at G, but this time we have 3 numbers and we have a minus sign. So if we've got a minus and a plus, have a think about what that is. It will end up as a negative. If you have to write that down, then please do so to work it out. Numbers, we're going to have 5 times 3 times 2. So 5 3s are 15. 15 times 2 is 30. Remember, you can check that. You could go 5 2s are 10. 10 times 3 is 30. So we've taken care of the negative, we've taken care of the numbers, and we have x times x left, which from the last one we remember should be x squared. And that's our question. All right, so now I'm trying to confuse you, but I know I won't because you're following beautifully, I can tell. Letters. Sorry, numbers. There's a number, there's a number. Oh, hang on, there's a negative. So as I'm checking for my numbers, I've seen that there's one negative there. So we're going to write down a negative. Don't forget, if there was a negative here and a negative here, that's two negatives. So a negative and a negative makes it a positive. But in this case, there's only one. So we've taken care of that minus. Now we're going to do the numbers. 5 times 6 is 30. And now with the letters, we're going to multiply them all together. So you're going to have m times n times n times t times t. And I don't need to put the negative in here because I've already dealt with that out the front. Now, we could write m, n, n, t, t, but we need that to be more concise. And we know that n times n is n squared, and t times t is t squared. So your answer is going to be minus 30 m n squared t squared. Okay, so now we're going to move on to division with all the same rules that sort of apply. And by that I mean do the numbers, then do the letters. So we're going to do our numbers here first. Now, this might help you to do that. Some of us, we won't need to. But this is like 6 divided by 3. This is saying how many 3s are in 6. We know there are 2. Or the other way you could do it is what number goes into both of these? 3 does. 3 goes once into 3, and it goes twice into 6. So we are left with the 2. There's a 1 on top, on the bottom, so we don't need a denominator. So it's just 2, and the only letter we have there is an H. So we're going to have an H as well. Now, they're going to be set out like this as well. The easiest way is to probably put them over. It's easier to see. Okay, so numbers first. We're going to go 10 divided by 5. So how many 5s are in 10? There are 2. Same thing as how many 5s in 5? There's 1. How many 5s in 10? There's 2. And there is an R sitting on the end there. All right, next one, let's have a look. So I'm going to just put this line down here to remind us we're going to do the numbers completely separately to the pronumerals. All right, I'm going to find the biggest number that goes into both of those. And I think it might be 4. Okay, let's see. Remember, if you don't get the biggest one straight away, you can just keep going. So I'm going to go 4 into 20 goes 5 times. And I'm going to go 4 into 48. 4 into 4 goes once, into 8 goes twice. So it's 5 over 12. So this time we do need to have the line there because we do have a denominator. And D on D, what's that going to be? There's 2 ways you could think about this. D divided by D, that means how many D's are in D? Well, there's 1. Or, what's the biggest thing that goes into both of these? D is. How many D's in D? 1. How many D's in D? 1. 1 on 1 equals 1. Now, because it is the number 1, we don't have to write that there. So, in a way, if you come back to here, you're cancelling out. So, whatever's on the top and whatever's on the bottom, you can just cancel. So, if there's 1 there and 1 there, they disappear. And that's why your answer is just 5 over 12. So when you get to division, you might want to go a bit slower, okay? All right, so let's have a look at this one. We're going to do our numbers first. So the biggest number that goes into 21, 28. So first in class, I'd be waiting for people with their hand up. Can you think? I'm going to go 7. All right, 7 into 21 goes 3 times. And 7 into 28 goes 4 times. So we have a 3 on the top and we have a 4 on the bottom. Here we go. Now we have to do these separately this time. So with division, it's a bit different. You just play with the letters if they are exactly the same. So we have an A on the top and no A's on the bottom. So that means we're still left with an A on the top. And our B and our B is just like our D and our D. If there's 1 on the top, you can cancel with 1 on the bottom. So the B's are gone, all right? So your answer's 3A over 4. It could be, though, like just this extra little idea which will help you. Okay, so let's have a look at just cancelling a group like that. There's a C on the top, nothing on the bottom, as in C's, so the C will just stay. Oh, look, there's a D and a D. They're going to go. There's a P and a P. They're going to go. There's a Q and a Q. They're going to go. And an R and an R. So there's also a C on the top. Now, because they're all sitting here by themselves, that means 1, 1, 1, and 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times, this is a million ones, is over 1. And we never have to put anything over 1. So your answer for this one would just be CS. All right, let's have a look at this. 2 to go. All right, I'm going to write this out again. I think it's just easier to see as a division. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, introducing something else here, are negative, negative. So a negative and a negative makes a positive. I'll put the positive in for people who need it, but you don't have to. All right, now this is a little bit different because the number on the bottom is higher than the number on the top. So still think of the highest common factor, and hopefully you've worked out that it's 7. And we're going to go 7 into 14 goes twice, and 7 into 28, 7, 14, 21, 20 goes 4 times. Oh, look, it's not the highest common factor. So what can you see? It's a 2 and a 4, so something still goes into them. I'm silly. The highest common factor was going to be 14. Hopefully some of you said that. All right, but it doesn't matter if you don't get it. This just shows. So we've got a 2 and a 4. You can keep going. How many 2's in 2? There's 1. And how many 2's in 4? There's 2. All right, how do we say this then? With this, it's getting a little bit complicated. Have a look at the number that's left. So the number that's left on the top is a 1. The number that's left on the bottom is a 2. Sorry, that got confusing. All right, so we've done the numbers. We've got to address the S. Anything on the bottom? No. Means you need to leave the S as it is on the top. Any T's on the bottom? No. So you're going to leave that there. And the last step would be to get rid of the 1. So your final answer, I'm also going to get rid of the plus because we don't need that, is ST divided by 2. All right, so now we've got lots of numbers and lots of letters. So this is like the hardest one that you'd get. A few of you may not want to be doing these kinds. That's up to you. All right, so let's have a look at the numbers first. We're going to see what we can cancel from top and bottom, and there's quite a few different combinations. I could do 2 goes into 6 and it also goes into 2, or I could do 2 goes into 6 and it also goes into 8. Before I start that, I'm going to use the 7 and the 14 because they look like they could be good ones to get rid of, and I'm going to say 7 goes into both of those. So 7 into 7 goes once, and 7 into 14 goes twice. All right, what other numbers do I have? I've got an 8, a 2, and a 6. Now, remembering, you can do something from the top only with something from the bottom, and you can't repeat it. So you've got to choose one thing to play with on the top versus one thing on the bottom. So you can't, for instance, go, oh, 2 goes into all of them. I'm going to get rid of the 2 in that, and that. That's not how you go. So you might do, I'm going to do the 8 and the 6 together, find common factor. And your friend might do the 6 and the 2. Now, they should end up with the same answer as you. I'm going to do the 8 and the 6. So the highest number that goes into both of those is 2. So how many 2's in 8? There's 4. And how many 2's in 6? There's 3. All right, let's have a look now. Let me see if I can find my highlighter. Just to make it nice and clear what we've got. So numbers-wise, we've got a 4, a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 2. So if you have a look at the highlighted spots, and if you write really small and you get all complicated, and you can't see, perhaps that would be a good way for you to see, because straight away now I can see I've got a 2 and a 2, and when they're matching, I just get rid of them. So yay, 2, 2. Okay, so they're gone. So let's have a look at the numbers. We got 4 times 1. That's all that's left on the top, so it's going to be a 4 on the top. And on the bottom I've just got the 3, so it's going to be a 3 on the bottom. And now I've taken care of the numbers. Now I'm going to do a couple of steps because I'm going to write out all of these. So I've got an x to the power of 3 left, a y to the power of 2 left, and a z to the power of 2. That's everything on the top taken care of. Now on the bottom I've got my 3 already, and on the bottom I've got an x and a y. Now this is a difficult one, I said, don't forget. Okay, now let's have a look at, say, just the x's. Quite tricky. All right, so my yellow is x cubed, which is the same as x times x times x over just x. Now see what happens? That is going to cross with that. So you're only left with x squared. Now, remembering that if that's a 1, because it is, if it's just sitting there, it's a 1 like this one as well, then it's going to be x to the power of 3 minus 1 from our index laws, which is 2. So you need to go back to the start of the year and remember, when you divide with indices, you've got x down the bottom and it's 3 minus 1 is a 2. So let's have a look at the y. 2 minus 1 is 1, and we only have a z squared on the top, nothing on the bottom, so this is going to be z squared. Now the other way you might see it is like this. I don't know how the book does it, so it's going to be 4 with a 3 on the bottom. There's nothing else on the bottom. X squared, y, z squared. Now both of these are correct, so you would get them correct in a test because they're both wonderful answers. All right, so I just want you to take a look here. This is also in your lesson plan, but it's just important for you to know that these here, even though it's question 1, then questions 6 and 11, these are multiplication questions. Then it goes back to 2, 3, 5, 6. So it's kind of all over the place. These are division questions. You can go in order if you want. I think it's much easier to do all the multiplication questions and then do all the division questions. Okay, when I say all, there isn't a lot to do. And yes, this video has gone on for a little bit longer, but just see how you go making your way through that. And don't forget to ask us for help during the lesson.